Thanks so much, Dave. So my name is Aubrey McCarthy, and it's fantastic to be down with you. I heard you were all misbehaving last night. You had a gala dinner, and I was speaking to some of you earlier. I set up an organization many years ago called Tiglin, and it works with people. I came from a family of chaos and addiction, so I always wanted to make a difference if I ever got out of it alive. And so I certainly did, and I got out of it alive, and I set up Tiglin 20 years ago. So coming to this conference where social care is a key feature, I'm absolutely over the moon, and I've gone around the different stalls, and I've met Cressida from Best Care. She gives out brilliant cups. If everybody wants a cup, make sure you visit her stand. And then, Audrey Moore, who I've known for many years from the Trust. But talking to the different people, you realize that you actually can make a difference in the lives of the people that you work with, that you help out in whatever area. I just sat down, and I've gone around the table, and I don't want to embarrass anybody, but Agnes, who is doing she's doing a work experience at Oberstown, and she was just talking about working with an individual who had literacy problems and just even helping them to read or write. You're not able to change the direction of the wind, but you're able to adjust the sails for that person. And that's what I think the conference is all about. So it's fantastic to have you here. I'm a newly elected senator from last year in Dublin. So if anybody wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, you'd be very welcome. I love to connect anything to do with social care. And if you all want to come into the Oireachtas, there's a great Dáil bar in there as well. You're welcome to contact me. Anyway, David's telling me to shut up. So remember, Aubrey is my name. The last time I was at a conference like this, I was introduced by a lady, and she was a little bit nervous. And she says, and now we have a representative from Tiglin, Mr. Aubrey McCarthy. So it's Aubrey. So I'm going to introduce two amazing people, Liz Maher and Helen Doherty, and they represent specific areas of social care. And I'm going to start with Liz Maher, who set up an organization called Inspired, and it's a person-centered social care organization, but it supports adults with intellectual disabilities and helping them to live full, meaningful and productive, self-directed lives. So you'll hear about the innovative programs that she delivers, the community partnerships, how they work, and all Inspired is focused on commitment to inclusion. So she's going to talk about Scotia Village, and she's going to give the presentation on that. And then we'll have questions and answers. And then I'm going to have Liz Maher, I mixed them up. Liz is behind me, and Helen is social farming. And she's the operations manager of social farming. Interestingly, she doesn't have a social care background, and it was interesting to even discuss with her about her experiences and how social farming can impact social care. So I'm going to start off, first of all, with Liz Maher. And so if you could give a round of applause to Liz. You want to use it?
Thank you. I'll use this. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you. Great crowd here today. Isn't it lovely to kick back and let everyone else do the talking for a change? Well, that's what we're here to do, and thank you very much for inviting me here today. And be careful with that invite to the Oireachtas. We might be just heading to that bar later. Or we'll be all up there pretty shortly anyway. We're good ones for a party, I can tell you. So welcome, and my name is Liz Maher, and I am the CEO of Inspired. My great assistant here today is Rebecca. We're having a couple of technical difficulties, but we're getting through it. It is great to have an extra pair of hands. And Rebecca drives the career program for us in Inspired. So a lot of what I'm talking about here today, Rebecca's overseeing, which is fantastic to have that person that has a deep knowledge of social care and a social care background, but also can tie it in to what we're trying to do, which is develop a social enterprise so people can get some additional skills. But before I start off, next slide. So before I start off, I just want to give you a little bit of background about Inspired. So Inspired, we're based in Tralee, County Kerry. And Inspired founded Scotia Village, which is also based in Tralee. And I suppose the reason, there's a few reasons behind it, and I'll go into that a little later. But we have access to people with intellectual disabilities, and we service, as you see up here, a multiple selection of disabilities every day. So it's very wide, and the scope is very wide, and our staff are very good being able to cope with every type of disability, which is fantastic. And Scotia Village then itself, well, that is based on a 12.5-acre site. And it's founded by Inspired, but it's founded and based on the 4 pillars that Inspired is founded on. And the first one of those is to enable people with intellectual disabilities to access skills and development. Because we believe that if we focus on each person's ability, and we look at their abilities rather than their disabilities, then that will motivate us to really look inside each and every individual and see what they're good at, and then adapt accordingly. As Aubrey said, it's like testing the temperature. We're not a cure, but we certainly can navigate a journey for somebody and help support them towards that journey and towards that skill development. So that's the first pillar. The second pillar then is career development. Everybody should have the opportunity to have a job, to have a place in society, to have that contribution to their own community. And we believe that that is possible for everybody. The third is community inclusion. Not being segregated away, in congregated settings like it was many, many years ago. Times have changed and times have moved on, and that is fantastic, because now people have a place within their own community. They can socialise, they can communicate in whatever way they wish, but it's possible for them to be part of their own community, and that's what we're really driven towards. And the last one, the last pillar, which was only developed really about 1.5 years ago, is climate action. And enabling people to have a voice in their own community and being able to make contributions in their own community. Every single community now, including the dogs in the street, are talking about climate action. And what does climate action mean? And for a lot of people with disabilities prior to this, they knew that you had to segregate your waste into separate bins, but they didn't know why. They weren't able to communicate this. They weren't able to be part of the conversations. And so that's why we developed Scotia Village. And it's a learn by doing environment where people can get in and get dug in and actually be part of the conversation by doing. The next slide. So the reasons that we also started this is the limited inclusion in those conversations, but also that they have the power to advocate for climate change too and be part of that change and be change makers as part of that change. And also the employment stats of people with intellectual disabilities or any disabilities being employed are actually very, very low. And we are the 4th worst in Europe. Could you actually believe that? But we are actually worse when it comes to people with intellectual disability being part of environmental work or any part of climate change work. Next one. So it is a win-win for us, right? Not just the participants, but for our organisation, because we're actually now making great strides towards the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And this was something that we were never able to achieve before. We're also making great impact in the UN CRPD, which is fantastic for our organisations. And not only that, it's working for the participants too, because now they're learning, they're engaged, they're learning new skills, they're developing new skills every single day. And then they can transition those skills out to mainstream employment, out to independent living skills, travelling independently, feeling more confident, and reduced anxiety as well. So it has having a lot of impacts in very different ways. And it's also empowering them to be part of conversations. So I just want to hold for a moment because I'm going to invite Fiona. So Fiona is a driving force in the Scotia Village because she is going to lead up our enterprise team in our craft area. So we have 2 different enterprise teams at the moment. One is in the horticulture area and Fiona is involved in the craft area. So she'll take the mic there and you might describe to us what you're doing.
Hello, my name is Fiona, and I'm a participant at Inspired for the past 7 years. Yeah. And I started making jewellery from plastic. So this is a bottle opener made from celebration tubs that you have in Christmas time in your houses. So we make that. This is from bottle caps. We break down the plastic in a shredder. Well, first of all, we make sure the plastic is clean and dry because we don't want to get contaminated. So and then we put it into the shredder, we break it up, and then we put it into the injection machine. And that's how we make the jewellery. This is an example of a jewellery. These are earrings, and they're actually made from hospital gowns. So nothing ends up in our landfills or oceans because we want to protect our planet. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Fiona. She did a great job. Thank you. And Fiona's becoming a climate change ambassador. So like that, all of this learning is coming from actually doing and understanding why we need to save the plastic, why we need to save plastics from landfill, and learning about food as well, which I'll move on to. So, you know, the learning is all because they're doing it every single day and they're picking it up. So gone are the days of chalk and blackboard, you know, we had to sit down at a desk and everything was driven into us. But, you know, there's a new way of learning, and universal design learning is a way, you know, that everybody can learn, and we are the ones, we have to adapt. We have to, you know, as social care sector, we've had to adapt. We've had to learn that people learn differently, and we are the ones that have to change, you know, accordingly. And I think that's very, very important, and that's a huge learning that we have learned also. So we'll move on now, and this will give you, hopefully that this will play.
Welcome to Scotia Village, where organic food production, sustainability, and inclusion come together to create real change. This is more than a farm. It's a community-powered social enterprise where people with intellectual disabilities work side by side with volunteers, businesses, and corporate partners to grow food, protect the environment, and build valuable skills. Every aspect of Scotia Village is designed for participation. The polytunnels, berry gardens, orchard, and apiary are laid out using universal design principles, ensuring that everyone, regardless of ability, can take part in planting, tending, and harvesting. Participants aren't just learning how to grow, they're learning the business of food. They prepare produce for sale, label it, and distribute it to local organic wholesalers. They also operate their own Shopify account, managing online orders and customer interactions, gaining practical e-commerce experience. This is a closed-loop food system. Fresh produce is sold to wholesalers, ripe but unsold food is donated to Meals on Wheels and Kerry Food Share. Overripe produce is composted, returning nutrients to the soil. Nothing is wasted, not food, not opportunity. Community is at the heart of everything here. Retired horticulturists, farmers, and craftspeople volunteer their time and knowledge. Local schools visit to learn about biodiversity and healthy eating. Businesses and corporates partner with us, bringing resources, expertise, and fresh ideas. This approach directly supports the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, from Goal 2, Zero Hunger, to Goal 8, Decent Work, Goal 12, Responsible Consumption, and Goal 13, Climate Action. It also reflects the principles of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, ensuring that people with intellectual disabilities have the right to participate fully in their communities, not as observers, but as leaders. Along the way, participants discover a deeper connection to nature, understanding soil health, pollination, and the cycles of the seasons. They learn the value of quality food and how healthy eating supports well-being. What you see here is a whole community effort. It's local people and local businesses working together with one shared goal: to create a sustainable, inclusive, and healthy future. Every seed planted here is a step toward climate action. Every jar of honey, every box of produce sold is a step toward employment and empowerment. This is Scotia Village, where the land grows food, the work grows skills, and the community grows stronger together.
So that just gives you a little flavour.
Welcome to Scotia Village, where organic food production...
I was going to play again because you hadn't heard it the first time. Move it on to the next slide. Yeah, great. So I suppose that will just give you an idea of what we're trying to do, and it's called the circular economy, okay? So the reason we do it like this is because we don't want the participants working in isolation. We want them out into the community. We want the community to come into us as volunteers for harvesting and developing the food produce, and also then our participants going out and having those business-to-business conversations. They're doing it, not us. We're just the support mechanism. We are not the do-it. And it's so important that they're getting out, they're having those conversations, they're integrated into the business community, and the amount of businesses that are coming forward to actually do business is absolutely phenomenal. And it is something that can be replicated across any social care service, you know? Even a small little patch, and even if you're growing and you're selling to friends and family, it's that impact that that can have, and the milestone achievements that participants are getting and gaining, the skills they're gaining, the milestones they're achieving, and how they're out there and integrating into the community, but also the skills, that those skills can be transitioned then into a workplace, whether it's in supported employment or in mainstream employment. So the food loop system that we're actually developing, so they sell some of the food, but then some of the food is held back and distributed to Meals on Wheels and Kerry Food Share. So we have a commercial element and we have a social element. And that's very important for us as well, that there is a give back. So then, looking at what we're doing in the food system that we've set up, we're also trying to do the same thing with other aspects of our social enterprise. And craft is something that a lot of our participants absolutely love. They love craft, they love art, and they love becoming involved in it. And we found over a few years that we were doing art for the sake of doing art. Every time it was becoming very repetitive, the same thing turned out. And when we started with Scotia Village, we were like, this is the perfect opportunity now to develop something more meaningful and more productive. And how could we do that? And how could we incorporate that into Scotia Village? Because it was the perfect environment for it. So looking at woodwork, some of our participants had never even handled a hammer before, let alone a drill, or any type of battery-operated equipment. And to see now the difference from the day one that they could hardly handle a tack hammer, and now they're using drills, they're working on their own, they're managing the equipment, they've done their safety training. It's absolutely remarkable. So you will never ever, once you see this, you will never say again, they can't do that. They actually can. So we'll move on to the next slide. And this is just an insight into the community that we work with. We've now networked out into the MTU, the university. We work across several departments. We're working with the charities. We've business-to-business relationships. We've also volunteers coming in, corporate days. We're working with the women's sheds, the men's sheds, and the secondary and primary schools. We're also networking even broader than that. And I wanted to give you some insight here into the next video, if it'll play. So this
in a world focused on consumption, there is a place dedicated to a different kind of growth. There is a place dedicated to inclusion and community collaboration. That place is Scotia Village. Through our inclusive workshops, we empower people of all abilities to become eco-makers, transforming waste into beauty and passion.
Sorry, we're just going to start that again now.
In a world focused on consumption, there is a place dedicated to a different kind of growth. skill building, inclusion, and community collaboration. That place is Scotia Village. Through our inclusive workshops, we empower people of all abilities to become eco-makers, transforming waste into beauty and passion into purpose. At the heart of Scotia Village is a commitment to the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, ensuring people with intellectual disabilities are supported to participate fully, make choices, build skills, and be visible contributors to their communities. Scotia Village is a community-driven initiative that brings people together across generations. It thrives on collaboration, shared learning, and participation. Participants work alongside retired members of the community, volunteers, transition year students, special needs students, and local businesses. Everyone has a role to play. The approach ensures that participants are immersed and in every aspect of the community and not working in isolation. This inclusive approach reflects the spirit of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, particularly reduced inequalities and quality education. Through strong partnerships with third-level students and lecturers from Munster Technological University and the RDI Hub in Killorglin, Scotia Village connects local learning with national and international innovation, supporting decent work and economic growth. Our woodcraft programme begins with a problem: trees affected by ash dieback or recycled wood. But here we see not an end, but a new beginning. Participants learn essential skills: sawing, chiselling, sanding and finishing, gaining confidence, independence and pride with every piece they create. From discarded materials, we create functional, beautiful, eco-friendly crafts that promote biodiversity and support local economies, advancing climate action and life on land.
An exhibition that celebrates the biodiversity of our planet could not omit to include the King of the Beasts. Easier said than done to realise a lion in 3D. Until, in the joinery workshop of a long-time friend of ours, we spotted an oversized and discarded bench saw blade. Bingo. To make the body, the participants had to glue and clamp sections of old scaffolding board before sanding to an even finish. Shaping the two sections was done mainly using the jigsaw, before again sanding to remove any noticeable imperfections. Several layers of stain, paint and wax followed before assembling together with our reclaimed metal bits. Our lion now guards the entrance to the exhibition.
The passion for upcycling doesn't stop at wood. Our EcoCraft workshops transform trash into treasure, using discarded plastics to create jewellery and household items, willow to weave baskets, and beeswax, a byproduct of our beekeeping programme, to make candles. Every bracelet, every candle, every woven basket is a tangible act of climate action, teaching the principles of a circular economy and responsible consumption and production.
Creating them. As a lot of us, we have access to a lot of cardboard and paper waste. With the resources, we have created our very own clay. By tearing up the cardboard into small pieces, we allow it to soak in warm water for a day or two. Once the cardboard has become soft, it is then sieved and we add a small adhesive. The cardboard is then blended with a blender until it forms into like a clay-like substance. Once we're happy with the clay, we then can mould it into our chosen shape or object. In this case, we have used cardboard cut leaves. And in some cases, we've actually used real leaves that we've collected around Scotia. The shape and the mould are then left to dry thoroughly. And once they're dry, we then paint them. And in this case, we've painted them white to create this stucco effect. In addition to the leaves, in our shop, you will find some of the beautiful bowls we have designed and painted with the cardboard clay.
Scotia Village is more than a workshop space. It is a living example of how inclusion, sustainability and human rights can come together. Our eco-makers are building skills, shaping futures, and creating a greener, more inclusive world. Discover the beauty of repurpose.
So this is just an example of some of the pictures of some of the work they have produced. And this is just some of the impact that we've had as a result of our workshops, which has absolutely been fantastic. And funding is always a big issue. You know, we're lucky to be funded by the HSE for our social care and Pobble for our job coaching and career development. And then we're funded by a number of these organisations here with regards to materials. So I'm going to finish up quickly. So I suppose our future plans, we hope to expand over the next coming years and into new developments and new products. And there has been a number of barriers along the way, but we have jumped a number of those barriers. And you know, for every problem there is a solution. So it's knuckling down, and I'll answer some about, you know, in the questions and answers. I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions as to what some of those barriers are. So I've been told to roll it on here now because the next person is up. So I'll be happy to answer any of your questions afterwards, and I'm sure some of you have them. But thank you so much for having me here today. It's been a huge pleasure. Thank you.
Liz, thanks a million. Certainly that was very informative, but also very inspirational. Do you know, a few weeks back I received a call from the secretary in our organisation, Tiglin, and she'd said, there's a big parcel here for you, Aubrey. Should I open it? And I said, certainly. And she opened it, and there was 2 Dyson Hoovers. I thought, oh, okay. And she said, there's a note with it. Can I read it? I said, certainly. So the note was from a guy called Glenn. Now, Glenn, I had met him probably 15 years ago, and he was tapping, he was begging for money under an ATM machine on O'Connell Street. And he just never had the opportunity to turn his life around. Anyway, Glenn came into one of our centres 15 years ago, and while he was there, we were getting electrical work done. And we put him working with the electrician to be sort of a help and get whatever the electrician needed. And while he was talking to the electrician, he said, I want to be an electronic engineer. Now, Glenn had no leaving cert. And the electronic engineer said, listen, from your life, your chaos that you've had, you're better off just, you know, get a manual job or whatever. So that, of course, was a challenge to Glenn. And Glenn said, I'm going to do this. Glenn now is an electronic engineer. He lives in Switzerland, and he works for a multinational. And he sent me over two Hoovers, and the note read, when I was in your centre, it was always filthy down my end of the town. And I just thought, that's what it's about. It's about life change. So when Liz was talking, all of the wonderful stuff about Scotia Farm and that is life changing. But it's only when Fiona gets up and Fiona shares, this is the bottle opener, these are the earrings, that's what makes the difference. And that's why social care, social enterprise, what you're doing is life changing. Thank you so much, Liz, and we've loads of questions for you after. As a senator, one of the roles that I'm on the housing committee, I'm on the enterprise committee, and we often have people coming in from rural Ireland, farmers, and they're asking how to diversify. What can we do to bring in other streams of interest into farming? And another angle I'm on is regarding working with vulnerable and marginalised people. So Helen Doherty, actually what she does encapsulates both. So she's involved in Social Farming Ireland, and now that's recognised as one of the country's most valuable community social supports for many, many people. And it fosters connections between individuals, the natural environment, and of course farmers, plants, animals, and all the rest. But social farming in rural communities, it means genuine inclusion, but it also means an alternative for farmers to have diversification. So I'm going to hand over now to Helen Doherty to tell us all about social farming. Thank you, Helen.
Great. Hi, everybody. I was expecting a slightly smaller group to be speaking to. Somehow I didn't pay attention to the finer detail and thought I was speaking on a panel but to half the room. So hi, everybody down the back. Great to see you. And it's great to get the opportunity to speak to you today and inform you a little bit about social farming. And I suppose we talk about social farming and how that might fit in with the Sustainable Development Goals. Well, quite simply, I suppose everything that we do in social farming fits in with the Sustainable Development Goals. So I suppose, you know, this is not something that we need to create. We don't need bricks and mortar, and we don't need to change anything in our society. We just need to open up what's there in our society already, which is farmers right across the country. So I'll take you through some background about social farming, how it developed, and some of the highlights of what happens. I don't have too many videos because I was worried about file sizes and stuff like that this morning, but I have a small video at the end. So we'll try moving these on here today. I'm going backwards instead of forwards. Okay. So most people, I would say, know what social farming is. One of my team was here yesterday, Leanne, and she certainly told me that everybody she spoke to knew quite a bit about social farming. But for anybody in the room that doesn't know about it, it's basically where we offer ordinary family farms as a form of social support for people who are marginalised or disadvantaged, really quite simply disadvantaged in some way or another. Farm is not a specialised treatment farm. It remains a typical ordinary working farm where people go to engage in the ordinary activities and to engage in the environment that's available on that farm. I'm going backwards again. I have to get these buttons right. So a couple of things around social farming. It's a planned, outcome-focused support placement, and we put an emphasis on those things because they're part of the core values around social farming. Planning the placements is extremely important. Ensuring that those placements remain outcome-focused for the participants so that people are not parked up on a farm for endless periods of time, that they're still achieving for that person, that they're still delivering on their goals. It's a support placement as well, so the farmer gives up his day. So this is not a work placement and it's not work experience. It's for people who aren't quite ready for that workspace but need to gain confidence and build their self-esteem as a goal to move perhaps towards training and education, towards a work opportunity, whatever the case may be. For some people, that may not be an option, and social farming can simply be a support in their life for a more longer term. And that's a very much valued option for many people as well. Again, touching on the Sustainable Development Goals, there's no capital investment required for social farming, and it's just an investment in people. So we're not building bricks and mortar, we're using what's there in every community. I have to get the right button. Some more of our core values around social farming. It's person-centred, so very often we provide training for our farmers. You know, we deliver talks to health and social care services, talks to the farming sector, and people will have a variety of questions. And one of the favourite answers that I come up with constantly is it very much depends, and it depends on what the participant wants. So we remain person-centred in everything we do. It's not about running a programme that people must fit into. That's not what social farming is about. It's about opening up these farms and providing simple opportunities for people to grow and develop and learn on those farms. We work with a lot of health and social care services. I've met lots of people today, recognise a lot of organisations that we've worked with right across the country. We complement existing services. It's an alternative. It's something that somebody can do one day a week, and maybe they do other day service opportunities other days. It recognises the social function of a farm. So farming is under pressure, of course, these days, and farming can be get a lot of bad press when it comes to sustainability. And this is recognising that farms can perform a social function in communities. And it's also using the farm in a non-productivist way. So they're doing no harm to the environment by certainly having participants. In fact, most of our farmers will tell you it's the day they slow down and they appreciate their farm more than any other day. So I have a nice big slide here, and I'm not going to labour this one now. Social farming's been around, and I suppose in some ways it's been around forever. UCD started looking at social farming across Europe, where it's largely called care farming, and in the UK as well. And they started to look at how we could start social farming in Ireland, back as far as 2006. So as somebody pointed out to me, we have a conference ourselves coming up in a few weeks' time at the end of April, and we're talking about celebrating the current iteration of social farming being in place 10 years. But it's been around 20 years, and certainly UCD have been talking about this for the last 20 years. Around 2011, 2012, I started working in social farming. We had a cross-border project, we got some funding, we set up 20 pilot farms, and at that point in time we were told, okay, you're never going to get farmers involved, you're never going to get vulnerable people to go out onto very dangerous places that farms are, and you're never going to get insurance, and you're never going to get funding. So obviously we're still around 10 years later, and piece by piece, we have grown from the ground up with our farmers, and we have achieved all of those things. So we are now funded by the Department of Agriculture, and also significantly by Health and Social Care Services as well, to provide supports for people on ordinary farms right across the country. We have a national team in place. We are a national project. Although we're based in Leitrim Development Company, we have about 160 farms across all counties in the country. We have our overall program manager, Brian Smith. I'm the day-to-day person. Our national office, we have 2 development managers, one north and one south, dividing the country roughly in half. We have 2 administrators. We have 6 regional coordinators, and we collaborate with a number of local development companies around the country. What we do, so we recruit new farmers, we disseminate and talk about social farming and explain how it works to various sectors, rural development sector, to the farming sector, to health and social care sectors. We build relationships with support services so people can access social farms. One of our goals, as set out probably about 10 years ago, was Jim Kinsella from UCD, who's been involved for a very long time, he announced he would like to see a social farm in every parish in Ireland. So that's keeping the social farming opportunity very local to everybody. And again, that fits in very nicely with the Sustainable Development Goals, an opportunity for everybody in their own locality, so they don't have to, leave from their community to find support. Systems, process and governance, and another key part of what we do is research as well. Yeah. Do you like that? Yeah, all these flicky. This isn't suiting me. We'll talk a little bit about our research and policy. So this is part of our core activity. While on one sector of what we do, we're building the base of social farming across the country and getting farmers ready for practice. But alongside that, while practice is happening, we're doing the research on it and seeing how it works on the ground. Without that evidence, quite simply, social farming wouldn't grow. So the research is aimed at the services and the policy arena and influencing public policy around people's rights and people's rights to choose that if they want to engage in social farming, that becomes a real option for them. We run major conferences as well over that period of time, and we obviously funding applications, etc., as Liz spoke about as well. Funding's always a challenge, but when we have a policy and research worker involved with us as well, it certainly helps on that side of things. These are some of the reports that we have produced. I just brought one with me, so we have some of those. We have a little table just outside if anybody's interested, but they're all online. We tend not to distribute a huge amount of them by paper, prefer if people can access them online, so there's a lot of resources there. So, the research and policy also, some of you may have come across social farming through your colleges. So we deliver guest lectures across a number of colleges across the country, and of course we're always looking for more opportunities to talk about social farming, to explain to the new people who are going to be the driving force in health and social care as the years go by. So we work with across many different professions. We work with the nursing profession, social care, social work, and the occupational therapists as well. So we go in and deliver talks to the colleges, and we're always open to doing that. And our research and policy officer does a lot of that work. We get involved in European work, and obviously a lot of what we do in social farming, we learned a lot from what was happening across in Europe. But now we find sometimes that some of those organisations are actually coming back to us because there's a particular fabric and a particular social ethos to the farming community in Ireland that maybe we're hoping we can hang on to and not lose. And social farming certainly will hopefully keep some people on farms and keep people in rural Ireland. So process for our farmers. This isn't just a farmer that sticks a sign up at their gate and says, you know, come in here, I'm doing social farming. We put our farmers through roughly about 25 hours of training before they will accept any participant onto the farm. They register with us. We have our regional coordinators will visit that farm. We deliver training to them. They're vetted, they're reference checked. There's a whole process there. They have to prepare profiles, and we match them to participants as well. This is a brief snapshot of our training program. So there's quite a bit involved in that training. Some of it is delivered online and some of it is in person. So obviously the in-person pieces go down very well, but invariably they happen on sunny days, and our farmers are sitting in a room and looking outside and saying, I could be doing all those jobs. I can tell you, sometimes it's no mean feat. As I say, it's great to get them into the training, and there's lots of farmers interested. It can be challenging getting farmers on board. And the main reason is probably the training, and it's the hoops that we put them through before we put somebody on the farm. And that's to protect the vulnerable people that are going out onto the farm. So this is a rough snapshot of our network. So all of those dots are all of the farms that we have currently. It's ever changing. Farmers sometimes take breaks and you know, step away for a year or two, and that's fine too. And farmers are coming on board all the time. Some farmers will do the training now and they mightn't engage for another year, but that's fine too. They bank that up. We have about 164 farms, I think, saw on the system yesterday. The activities on the farm range hugely. We don't prescribe what kind of farm any of our farmers have to be. They don't have to have anything. Smallest farm we've had is 1 acre, and that was purely a horticulture setting. There were no animals there. It wasn't a requirement again, but there were participants who wanted to access that actual farm. And I'll tell a little story about that when we go a little further on. But our largest farm then was probably around 500 acres, and that was a huge dairy farm, and there was quite a number of people employed on that farm, for example, and that offered a completely different experience for some participants out on that farm. And it was the woman on the farm that was interested in providing the social farming opportunity there. But needless to say, the participants did gravitate towards those horses on that farm. There was lots of other things, but they did gravitate towards the milking and the dairying at various points during their placements. Yeah, activities. Where would you go on farms? As Jim Kinsley, again, I'm quoting him again, he says there's always jobs on farms. And the farmers always say that having the participants on the farm actually incentivises them to actually get jobs done and to get small projects done on the farm. So, you know, a person, depending again, it depends on the person's capacity, what they'll get involved in any given farm. And that is why the planning process is very important. Okay. So, some of the stories around social farming, I suppose this is a collection of, photographs of various participants that got involved in social farming. Social farming is for anybody who is disadvantaged, and we literally mean anybody. We're actually speaking to some people about getting cover for insurance is a little bit of an issue, in that currently most of the policies only insure people over the age of 14. But however, we are investigating and trying to put together a programme where young people in the junior cycle in school can get involved in social farming, and there's huge benefits, and we certainly have some youth services approaching us about that, so we're exploring that at the moment. So that's a current project that we're working on, and we hope to get over that. So we've had Syrian refugees on farms. One of them was a sheep farmer and the other one was an olive farmer back at home. When they arrived in Ireland, they found themselves very isolated. So engaging with a farmer, an Irish farmer, certainly broke down barriers in the community. And it was at a time when there was lots of resistance to refugees coming into, particularly in rural Ireland as well, in small communities where they felt challenged about, you know, the number of people that were coming into the community and where they're going to be able to cope. Suddenly they're going out onto a farm and the local farmer is accepting them and accepting them into the community and helping their skills, and there's huge integration barriers broken down through that. This young man in the middle at the bottom, he sat on a panel just like this at one of our conferences. He came to us through a Garda Youth Diversion Programme in West Limerick, just out the road actually here. And those three young men, their lives took a different direction, and one of them, it was simply because the farmer gave a reference for him. So that changed the opportunities that were presented to that person. So there's mental health benefits. I have a couple of minutes left, so I am way behind because I slowed down. Believe it or not, I can get through this presentation in 10 minutes, but meaningful activities, again, is a core value of Social Farming Ireland. We want our participants to actually have meaningful activities, not tokenism, not where activities are done for them. So they get the opportunity, just like Liz, to actually do the thing from beginning to end themselves, and they get to see that full experience. One of our participants, I don't know, was it the last slide? No, it's one of the other ones. Yeah, that 1 acre farm. Sold vegetables at the local market, and that particular participant, his goal to go social farming was to get to know that farm, to get to know the produce, but the real end goal was he wanted to go to the market every Saturday morning with that farmer, and he wanted the whole social element that was involved in that, and he wanted to work with them, and he achieved that. So that was a wonderful outcome for him. Social connection is a huge part of social farming. It's not just about the farm. People get to get off the farm. They go to the ag store. They might do other activities around in the community. Sometimes they go to another social farm as well, or maybe visit another farm in the area. So it is very social. Lots of chat and tea. Physical health and well-being. You might be supporting somebody and you might like them to get their steps up and they have to go for a walk. Maybe they get onto a farm and they could walk 2-3 kilometres in a day, and they mightn't even realise that they're walking 2 or 3 kilometres, because it's about the animals, it's about the maintenance of the forest that's down the other end of the farm, etc. So, yeah, a few nice images here, and these are some of the outcomes that some of the wins that we've had with social farming. School retention has been one of the significant wins with social farming. Employment, there's one gentleman in that photograph, he actually was employed on that particular farm. Was one of the newscasters came and did a piece on that particular farm. This particular, I was trying to get to this slide, seeing as we're skipping through a few of them, this particular participant was wheelchair bound, and he used to spend time at home on the farm with his father, and his father passed away. And that was a huge gap in his life, and he was experiencing a lot of loneliness. So social farming again bridged that gap for that person, and that was the response that we got, that his face was lighting up every Thursday when he was leaving to go to the farm. So it was it certainly didn't replace the relationship, and it didn't replace the experience he had with his own family, but it certainly helped and made his life a lot better. Participants usually go the nuts and bolts 1 day per week. The duration of the placement can be anything from very short placements. We do 5-6 week placements. Sometimes in the youth sector, people want to try it out and see, is it going to work? Are the participants going to attend? There's lots of challenges around that. So anything from 8 to 20 weeks. Spend an average of 3 to 5 hours per day. The number of participants, they can be one-to-one placements. but usually it's 2, 3, 4 people, depending on what the support is like on the farm as well. The farmer supports and works alongside the participants all of the time, and there's always induction days, and we can certainly take services out to them. I suppose social farming is part of that whole green care movement that is happening. It's a non-traditional use of farm settings, low productivity, and there's been numerous European studies on the impact of social farming. Yeah, I did a nice slide, and I don't really have time to talk about it, so we were invited to President Higgins's garden party, which was all about sustainable development goals as well, for the same reason, I suppose, that we are here today as well. Many of our farmers are farming for nature. I think we've probably 25-30% of our farmers are organic farmers. The national average is about 2 to 5%, so we're way above that. They tend to be those type of farmers that are interested in more altruistic things as well. So I have a little video as well, just a very short one. It's really around some of our more recent engagements with youth services. So I'm not sure how to play it. Okay. There we are.
We work with a lot of young people who would find it hard to do many things. We have to be fairly choosy.
Okay. When I play it here, it doesn't play on the screen.
We work with a lot of young people who would find it hard to do many things. We have to be fairly choosy about what we do and make sure that it actually fits in with the criteria we work in.
The farming is really, really great.
There's no play button on this.
We work with a lot of young people who would find it hard to do many.
I go into the video itself. Yeah. It's only a minute.
We work with a lot of young people who would find it hard to do many things.
Go back and close the presentation. I think we might just move. Yeah, go on.
We have to be fairly choosy about what we do and make sure that it actually fits in with the criteria we work in.
The farming is really, really great in a way that it brings them out of their natural kind of environment where they're used to kind of being a persona that they kind of put on. They can come out here and they can really be themselves.
Just seeing that they could actually achieve things, whether that just be growing vegetables in the polytunnel, injecting cows and sheep, it's an incredible amount here for young people to enjoy.
Growing their confidence, they're growing everything, like their personality and their social development. It's that kind of a way, and you'd never know what could come out of it. We'd always recommend it to people in the youth justice sector and stuff like that. So it's really, really good.
Little gems happen here every time we come out. find it hard to do many things.
It stopped. Thank you very much for your attention. Sorry that little blip at the end, and apologies for the delay.
Helen, do you want to stop that? Is it still, or do you know how to? Unplug it. Unplug it. Listen, ladies, thank you so much. I think it was absolutely fantastic. And I researched both of your organisations beforehand, and yet I've learned so much more through what you've done. Can I ask both of you, we're going to go to the floor shortly, and we're going to be asking if you have any questions. So any questions, make sure you ask the ladies. So can I first start with you, Liz? What inspired you to get involved? Inspired?
It's the hardest working man here. We good? Yeah. Well, I didn't found Inspired. So Inspired was actually founded in 2014 by a group of parents who actually at the time, day services were just about turning a corner and changing away from congregated settings and moving into more New Directions program. And they wanted to have more opportunities for their sons and daughters. So that's why they actually founded Inspired. They started off in 2014 purely voluntary, with no money. I mean, barely scraping by on about a couple of thousand a year, which was done through fundraising. I came on the scene late 2018, and that's because they had received the first round of funding through Pubble. And I was hired as a project manager to turn the organisation around and to get it on its feet and to bring more money in and more funding in and to develop the organisation as a day service. And we did that. I was started in January 2019 and just got the HSE contract for Section 39. And then we were closed down in March 2020. But you know what? It gave us time to focus. I wouldn't look at it as a negative. It gave us time to focus on the direction we were going and rebuild and reconstruct ourselves and really get to know what the New Directions was all about and how we were going to implement that and how we were going to make huge changes in the lives of people we wanted to make.
So what you've done is you've linked disability services with climate, which is rather unusual.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, under what pillar then do you get funded? Is it disability care? Is it environmental initiative? Where does that come from?
It's a bit of everything. So basically, it's a combined effort. So the social care element comes in and it's funded by the HSE. So, everybody needs a bit of support in doing and learning about the skills. So they get that from social care. And then we are funded under Pubble, the workability programme. So we have a number of job coaches. So the job coaches then provide that support with the enterprise team and with the business to business element and maybe transitioning the skills from what they've learned through training within a certain skill and transitioning that out into mainstream employment. But the other side of it is within the social enterprise side of it is they have the opportunity to work in the social enterprise and get paid also. So there's choices there. So whatever they want to do is fine by us.
Perfect. Helen, over to you. So the inspiration for social farming for you came from where?
The inspiration for social farming, I certainly wasn't the inspiration for social farming. As you can gather from my title, it's operations manager, so I'm more on the do-it side of things, shall we say. However, innovation and inspiration happens all the time in social farming. I suppose, as I say, UCD was involved in researching social farming, and they felt, Department of Agriculture and UCD felt there was latent capacity in farms in Ireland, and that the particular farming structure in Ireland, where there are a lot of small to medium-sized farms, it's not as industrialised as farming is across in Europe, probably in some parts of the UK as well. So we have a particular structure, as I alluded to in the presentation, as well, and a social structure around our farmers. The farmer is very much part of the community, and we're very social people anyway, so we are. So we were trying to tap into what's there in the community. So they felt that, you know, if we could train our farmers up, if we could skill them up, then we certainly could open them up for people with disabilities, people with mental health challenges, young people, old people, whoever it may be, and provide that support on the farms. So they were researching it for a good number of years before it got off the ground.
And is there any hope of it ever becoming a mainstream pillar rather than sort of, it seems to be an additional option of social care at the moment?
Yeah, well, I suppose, you know, what social farming, it's not for everybody. So social farming, we'd like to see it as being an option in all health and social care services. Whether, you know, you work in social care, social work, whether you're an occupational therapist, you're part of the nursing team, whatever, that social farming is funded mainstream by the Department of Health via the HSE or via a number of other organisations, whatever it may be, and that it is an option. And it's part of the toolkit that is there for any professional working in health and social care services.
Okay.
That is our aim.
Okay. Liz, just back to you. Scotia, where is that? It's in Kerry.
It's in Kerry, so we have a hub based in Tralee, in the town centre, and then Scotia Village is just 10 minutes away, so it's up Ballard. And the name of the place is derived from Queen Scotia's grave, which is near Ballard, so we called it Scotia Village. And the reason for the village is because we want a whole community of people working together.
And is it something that could be replicated nationally, do you think?
100%.
The problem there is, though, when I first, I bought the National Mountaineering Centre, which is called Tiglin, back 20 years ago. But then I opened the next one, I just called it Tiglin, the other one. So we've 8 Tiglins. So it loses the grave Scotia connection. But is it something that could be replicated?
Absolutely. I mean, you take the plastic there that Fiona showed, which is we started shredding the plastic, taking in, bottles of Lynx and shampoo bottles, and they were cutting them by hand with scissors. And then they were using panini makers. So this is all from YouTube. And all the participants were finding this on YouTube. And they were using panini makers and moulding the melted plastic, and then using cookie cutters and making key rings. You could do that. I mean, it's so simple. You saw in the video where they were just taking cardboard boxes. That could be done anywhere. Mulch up the cardboard boxes. You can find it out on YouTube. There's no science behind it. Make your own mulch. And the dexterity, the sensory, and the feeling, and then the result, and achieving that result, it's massive. But you could do that anywhere. You don't have to have a huge farm. You don't have to have 12 acres. We were just very lucky to find a local farmer that was willing to give us this space to develop all of that.
And are there plans of expanding nationally?
Yeah, so we do. I suppose what we need to look at now is monetising everything we do, because we don't want to be dependent on fundraising and getting grant aid all of the time. So we're trying now to look at what would be the commercial side of it and what would be the social side of it. So you can see the commercial side of it with regards to the food is selling that food to local wholesalers, but then maintaining that social side and also a give back to the community through Meals on Wheels. And everything we do, we're trying to look at that. So then with the craft side, we have the local schools are bringing in the plastic for us. The participants are shredding it. And in return then, Fiona is going to be training as a mentor, and she's going to be delivering classes then and workshops on making beads. So when the classes come in then that have gathered the plastic, they'll make their own bracelets and they'll have something to take home from
Brilliant.
the
So
plastic.
Fiona's the climate ambassador.
She's the climate ambassador.
Well done.
She's the do-it-all. Yeah.
Excellent. Just back to you, Helen. So one of the impactful scenes from your presentation was the gentleman in the wheelchair in the field. And you just saw, so he used to go out with his father, and now he's in, and that's the day that he smiles every week. So is UCD, are you doing research regarding progression, mental health results, other impact of social farming on society?
Yeah, UCD are still involved with us, and yes, it's an ongoing research project working alongside what we're doing. I suppose we're still building the pathway for social farming to a certain extent. So the focus very much is on working with diverse groups of people right across the spectrum, because people are approaching us from youth services, from schools, for example, so like we have work to do, for example, now with the Department of Justice, health are funding social care, ag are funding social care, but we're now reaching out towards justice and towards other government departments to see if they can support people, because essentially this is a health and well-being support for people, and it's to progress their lives. So the next step would be, in the next probably 5 years, we're going to start looking at what is happening to the people that have done social farming. As I say, there is a percentage of people that will continue to use social farming. It simply makes their life better. But for other people then, it is outcome focused and they're progressing on to other things. Brilliant. And we're anecdotally hearing those stories day in, day out. Every time I go to a farmer meeting, every time I go and talk to Health and Social Care Services to review contract at the end of the year, I'm hearing these stories, and we have to progress the development of reports on that, certainly, and that's our goal over the next 5 years.
Well done, and thank you both. Okay, we're going to open it up to the floor. So if you want to put up your hand, Dave has got new hips, so go easy on him, so he can go down with the microphone. We can't hear you there. Is the mic on? Well done, Dave.
I would thank you, Helen and Liz, the brilliant work that you're doing, and it's incredible to see that what you're doing, like that scale. I was just for Liz, just in relation to Scotia and the Eco Makers. Did you start with a pilot, and scale up?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying this could be easily replicated across any social care setting. We started in Brandon Court, which was our first hub, and just in the art room. And that's where all that started, like I said, with panini makers and setting off fire alarms and everything. But anyway, we won't talk about that. But it was so simple. And just the mixer, and it's just an ordinary mixer from a kitchen. Do you know what I mean? It was so simple. And then with the woodwork, we started asking out on Facebook for people that were emptying out their sheds to give us some tools. We hadn't a bob, and they started then doing the woodwork in the same craft room. So the craft room was turned over into panini makers 1 minute, mixers for the kitchen another minute, and then tack hammers, That's how we started, and it was pure, really, really small. And then we got a bit of funding from the Community Foundation Ireland, gave us another bit of money. And then when we came across the farm, we went, voila, this is fantastic. We can now move it out of this hub and we'll develop another hub. And when we looked at Scotia Village, it was an open shed. We actually, over the last year and a half, have closed in the shed, put in some insulation. There's been a lot of work. It's still a bit rough, but we're getting there. But now we've moved it, all of that, up to the next hub. But it started from very humble beginnings.
I just have one last question. I'm curious about the challenges, like to get it up to that scale, and even with Helen as well, your work as well. What were some of the main challenges that you found?
I suppose for us, the main challenge was the training, the risks, the health and safety. So doing our risk analysis, of any of you from a social care setting, you'll see, it wasn't easy to hand over a drill and you're going, but there's that sense of positive risk. You've got to take it. You just got to go, all right, put it aside. There's an ability there. And you'll see from where we came from with the tack hammers to holding the drill, the sanders and everything. It's amazing. We're the ones that are scared. We're the ones that are holding ourselves back. They don't care. They want to have a go at it, And using now the equipment, they're using shredders and injection molding equipment, and they're doing it all themselves, Fiona will testify to that. But it's amazing. We're the ones that are holding back. So there was the risk analysis and then the funding. It's hard. It's very competitive out there. We've all seen that, but we're at it morning, noon and night trying to apply for funding, even just get the scraps, and hopefully we really should encourage and lobby for more funding, because HSE just doesn't pay for everything. It just doesn't. We all know it. We're all scraping for the pennies and increased energy costs and everything. But yeah, those were the biggest challenges, but we've been very successful because we started with the pilot and we moved up. Don't start with the big risk. Start small and work from there.
Hi, thank you both for your presentations. I just have a question for Helen. When you showed us the map of the locations of the social farms in Ireland, I just noticed that Kerry and West Cork were looking pretty empty, and I'm just wondering, what do you think the reasons for that are?
Yeah, there is a separate project in Kerry, Kerry Social Farming, so that's a different model, and they're running that part of it. We actually had a good few we actually had 4 farms in Bantry, which were right down in West Cork, and we do actually have a good few in West Cork, because we cover all the counties in the country. And all 4 of them, unfortunately, didn't come back to us after COVID. So we're working on replacing that, I suppose. We have additional resources on board now. We actually have a regional coordinator. I was down in Cork yesterday with her, and I came across after that over to here. But we have a regional coordinator in Cork now, so we're expecting to see significant growth in that area, because there's a huge population base in Cork City and West Cork as well, obviously. So we certainly have needs to address there, and a lot of organisations that are interested. So resources, I suppose, again.
So we have a few minutes left, so any more questions now?
A question for Helen. Helen, where are your participants referred in from?
All of you guys, I guess. So we work with many different organisations right across the country. I've spoken to a couple of people here today who are referring people into services. Resilience was one organisation, Care in Kildare. So it depends, okay. We work with disability services. A lot of them are the Section 39 organisations that we work with across the country. We work with mental health services then, and that's largely HSE based. So they're the 2 significant, I suppose. Disability sector accounts for probably about somewhere around 55% of the people who engage in social farming are from that sector. We probably have another 30% that are from the mental health sector and supported through mental health services. And then after that, we have a whole myriad of other organisations that we work with. So we're quite happy to work with anybody. We also work with some parents and advocates and advocacy organisations as well. So we have some parents who are referring people into social farming themselves, and they're the key support that's in the background for those placements. So it's a myriad of different people and different organisations that we work with, but we'll work with anybody.
Sorry, my voice is husky. I have a little bit of cold. Is there any opportunity for children from a respite setting to be engaged in some of the occasional meaningful activities from both settings? I mean, the farming and the both settings we have this afternoon. Because I work with an organization, we are HSE based in Dublin, and we're looking for things like that for children. And we have children from age 4 to young adults of age 18. And I'm looking to introduce that when I go back to see if there's anything around Dublin 9. We're under the CHS, Dublin generally, or Dublin 9 HSE.
I'll let you take that. Is there a Dublin?
Yeah, we do. So I think we spoke a little bit about it earlier on. We have a challenge with getting insurance for under 14s. And we are looking at a pilot project in that space at the moment. So hopefully, maybe by the end of this year, we might have overcome that challenge. Certainly, anybody over the age of 14 can access social farming, and we have supported plenty of young people over the years. We've had some young people who have gone to farms for up on 3 years, maybe 1-2 days a week. That short video clip that I played, and I apologise for the quality of it up on the screen, we're releasing that film. It hasn't gone out on full release yet, but there's a 4-minute long film from Carlow Youth Services, and they engaged in social farming with young people who are still in the school system. And one of the gentlemen on the film, he spoke about how the school accepted that they were going to social farming as part of their school attendance because it balanced their week and it enabled them to stay in the school system. So the school were very accommodating in that way. So you know, certainly we have no issue working with anybody once they're over 14 at the moment. But if you have young people that are younger than that, we're interested in hearing from you, because we'd like to identify a few pilots that we can certainly run that. And like you're saying, the pilots is a great way to discover how you can overcome these barriers.
Yeah.
So that's what this is all about.
All right, folks, we're going to finish up there. I'd like to thank both ladies and Aubrey for their presentation.